Welcome to Grow, Eat, Love, starting your childcare garden and encouraging home gardens. My name is Charlissa, and for most of you, this is the first time you've ever seen me. Hey guys. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay. What are we going to talk about tonight? We're going to talk about the importance of gardening for children, how to build a garden in any space, and maintaining your garden. Okay. And to do that, we've got How to Build a Garden in Any Space, hosted by Broderick. Broderick has been nurturing his green thumb since 2010, transforming every patch of soil he touches into a thriving garden oasis. With over a decade of gardening experience and having earned the title of Master Gardener in the last 3 to 4 years, Broderick's expertise blooms like the flowers he tends. But in his humble words, you don't truly master gardening until you become food for the plants. By day, Broderick is a dedicated customer success manager at Childcare, where he brings the same care and dedication to helping others grow and flourish in their use of the software. His passion for cultivating strong, supportive relationships and his knack for problem solving make him an invaluable resource to Childcare community. Whether he's guiding a new user through the ins and outs of Childcare or sharing his latest gardening tip, Broderick's enthusiasm is infectious. Broderick, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for the great intro there. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Let me go ahead and move us forward.
Awesome. All right. Hello, everyone. It's good to be here. I'm very excited. I know many of you are excited to have this discussion about gardening, especially involving the children in gardening, getting them getting their hands dirty, getting in nature. And this will be a little bit of a high-level overview because there's so much information that we have to cover, but we want to get the information out to you just so you can get your feet wet, so you can get out there and get started and use some of these ideas and things that we have here. Okay. So let's discuss the different type of gardening gardens that you can have. You can have your traditional garden. This is the garden you see on YouTube. You see it on HGTV. You see it everywhere. It's just in the ground. It's in the soil. You drop your seeds in. You grow your garden, right? With the traditional garden, it takes a little bit of planning because you have to plan around nature. And as you see, as we move forward, you'll see the further you are from nature, the less you have to do as far as planning. But with the traditional, you have to be aware where the sun is, be good with your cardinal directions, and don't be afraid of that. It is something that's really in you. It's just getting out there and getting it done, right? You have your container gardening. Everybody loves container gardening, especially if you're an herb fanatic like me. I'm a big herb fanatic. I grow basil and thyme and oregano and parsley, just pretty much anything that's an herb. I love to grow those. I do grow them in a traditional setting, but it's not hard to grow them in a container setting. One of the things that I've done at Childcare as well is I've showed them how to do container gardening with potatoes. And some of you may or may not, especially my Flora Masters, have seen you can grow those potatoes in a 5-gallon bucket and get a bumper crop of just potatoes everywhere. There's a method to it, but container gardening can be very, very useful. And then your vertical gardening, the vertical gardening is great because it does touch into every kind of aspect. You can do vertical gardening in a traditional setting. You can do vertical gardening in a bucket. You can also do vertical gardening by using PVC pipes and doing like more of like a hydroponic type of growing your vegetables up inside of your home in the corners of your walls and things of that nature. So there's different aspects of growing. Go ahead to the next slide. It's a little slow on my end. Okay, there we go. All right. So setting up each type of gardening. So this is what we're talking about, understanding where things go. This takes a little bit of research, but luckily for all of us, we can go to any store to get packages of seeds and they'll tell you basically everything that you need to know. Does it need a lot of light or does it need partial sunlight? Should it be cold when you're planting? It should be warm when you're planting. Which part of the season should we be planting it in? How deep should we plant? How far apart should we plant? All on the back of your package. That will be your best friend. As you grow in gardening and as your children grow in gardening, the less you'll use the packet and the more innovative you'll be able to become with how you plant things. But just if you're just starting, look at the back of those packages, read it. It's like a paragraph and it'll tell you everything that you need to know, okay? Now, one of the things that I use as a tip is if you're not really good with cardinal directions, pull out your phone, go to your GPS or go to any app and type in like a direction like you're going to go to Walmart, right? And look at those directions, and most of those apps will have a little compass on them, and you can see which way you're directed, okay? Once you do that, face your body north and use the method I learned in elementary. We used to always say never eat shredded wheat. That's what we would always say. So that's your northeast, southwest, right? Okay, so north is in front of you, your east is going to be to your right, south behind you, west to your left, okay? If you can do that, you've solved a lot of the problems, because what happens is when we're as home providers, as centers starting a garden, we're starting it next to a building, right? And that is very important to understand where you're setting your garden, because if you set your garden on the north side of your building, you have just shaded your garden for the entire season. Okay. If you set it on the south side of your garden, now you're in direct sunlight for the entire season, and you may have some crops that don't need full sunlight for 6 to 8 hours. So maybe you want to set it on the east side, maybe you want to set it on the west side, southeast, southwest, where you're getting half of the day of sun and then half of the day of shade, things of that nature. But understanding that direction can tell you where the sun is going to be. And also keep in mind, when you look over the eastern horizon, the sun rises in the sky east to southeast. It never goes to northeast, okay? So that kind of gives you an idea of like how much shade you want, okay? So selecting the appropriate plants for the space that in your local climate. I will give you a little bit of a tip here, just to make it easy for you. When you plant your seeds, plant a lot of seeds, plant them close together. It'll even tell you that on the package. Like plant them an inch apart and then weed them out. You'll prune them out basically. So when they start getting bigger, you'll look at the biggest ones and you'll take all the smaller ones from around it, so that bigger one can get the rest of that room and it can grow bigger, okay? So you don't have to think about, oh, I gotta map and all that kind of good stuff. You got carrots, just start dropping seeds, as many as you want. And then when they start popping up, start pulling out the tiny ones and let the bigger ones get bigger, and then they'll end up taking over and you have the carrots that you need. And then essential tools, this goes back to what I was saying before, the further you get away from nature, the less you'll need. A vertical garden grown in the house in a PVC pipe, you literally need a PVC pipe, maybe a water pump that's full of nutrients and it's just dropping water into the roots, and you just turn it on. That's pretty much all you need in a very high level. But building in the garden, you're going to need a shovel, you may need a rake, you're going to need some compost, you're going to need maybe just some topsoil. You may also need little shovels to dig out those holes if you're planting from maybe a plant that's already started for you, instead of coming from seed that you can drop into that hole, as well as mulch. You want mulch or straw to hold in that moisture, especially if you're in Texas like me during the summer when it's 900 degrees. You're going to need that straw. You're going to need that mulch to cover the ground so that when you water, it holds the moisture and the sun doesn't just make it evaporate. All right, let's move to our next slide.
Listen, I don't know if anybody else is the same way, but I am getting ready to move to a bigger porch, and I am looking forward to that PVC pipe where I can just shove a bunch of seeds.
And what's great too, they also have grow bags now. The ones I've seen are usually purple. I think I've seen some black ones, but it's like a fabric, and it's about yay high, and then it's really really wide. It's in like a circle. And you just drop your soil in, and then put your seeds, and you can grow inside of a bag. So you can just put it out on your balcony. just let it do without if you don't have an actual yard. Yeah.
Sky's the limit, Broderick.
All right, so let's talk about some different type of gardens. I'll just tell you, the last one is my favorite one, but we'll get to it. But we'll start here at Fun for Kids. These are just different type of vegetables that you can grow, fruits and vegetables, really straightforward, easy, and you can incorporate the children into it, because we know that if you have your children plant those seeds, more than not, your children are going to eat that food. Even if it's not the best tasting to you or to them, the fact that they grew it, they're going to want to taste what they grew. It's almost like magic. You put something in the ground and this beautiful thing pops up. I want to see what I made, right? So this is all about food or fun for kids. The food for kids as well is allowing the children to come out into the garden with you, especially if you have little ones. Give each one of them a bag of seeds. I have a little bag here. There's a little bag of seeds. Take that bag of seeds, give each one of them 3 seeds, and say, hey, drop them in the ground. Another cool thing you can do is if you have 10, 20 children, you give each one of them a popsicle stick. You get a piece of paper that has their name on it, maybe it's laminated, some closed in plastic, and you tape it to where they drop those seeds. So when those seeds grow, those are their plants, right? Those are their plants for them to eat. And then you're like, well, what happens if some animal gets to that food and now Johnny has a bunch of carrots, but Betty has none? Well, this is where the beauty of this comes in, where we are teaching the children that the food is ours, not mine. It is ours. And something happened to Betty's food. So Johnny, give her a carrot, let her share. And now you're incorporating community into children at a very, very young age and allowing them to be able to see, hey, it's great to share our food. All right. Another fun thing you can do for kids. This right here, can you all see that? Toilet tissue holder, right? Your cardboard, right? This is biodegradable. That means it gets in the ground, it gets wet, your little roly-polies and stuff are gonna eat away at it, but it's also a seed starter. So instead of going to the store and buying a seed starter, you can get your rolls of toilet tissue, the middle of the toilet tissue, and have each one of the children, or you will do this, you'll cut about 1.5 inches, 2 inches, right at the bottom, 4 of them, okay? And then all you're gonna do is you're going to take them here and you're gonna fold them like this. You fold them down to the bottom is flat. Now you have a seed starter, okay? And what you'll do, because of course if I let this go, you see it already starts to come apart. So what you'll do is, all you'll do is get you a little plate with some water in it and sit it in the water. Sit something on top of it for like 30 seconds and then take it out, sit it upside down or sit it on its bottom with something on top of it for like a minute or till that water dries, and it basically glues itself together. The cardboard kind of melts to itself from being wet, and now you have a seed starter. So now you can put your soil in here, you can drop a seed in here, and you can start your garden early in the season. If you're doing something like watermelon or strawberries or anything like that, start them in this.
I'm going to pause you for 1 second because some people say that they cannot see you. If you can't see Broderick, click on your go-to webinar panel, like where you see the questions. His webcam should pop up.
And when you click on it, go ahead and type in yes there in the question section so we know that you can see me.
Yeah. Okay, so Celia can see it. It looks like some people can see you, some people can't see you. So it is broadcasting. If you can't, first of all, you're going to get a recording of this. So that recording will have him doing exactly what he's doing for everybody else. You can also try and reconnect a disc, and I'll give everybody about 2 minutes. We'll wait about 2 minutes to see if people want to try and do that.
All right, still kind of half and half here.
Maria said she went to the orange circle go to meeting and clicked on it.
I can see now. I can see.
Okay, so it looks like some people are coming back on and they can see now.
Okay, great, great.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks, you guys. This is why I love my webinar, people. Oh, you're amazing.
Awesome. So yeah, so this is as a great tool. I actually, you will see at the end, close to the end of this webinar, you will see some sunflowers that I started in this, and you'll see how powerful this method is. Okay, so great thing. Then you don't have to throw away a little roll. You know, you're saving some stuff from the waste yard, right? Okay. Another great thing that you can do with your children, I'm going to do 2 more because I want to make sure we can try to get everything in here. Another great thing that you can do for the children is your onions. So if you grow onions, I'm just gonna tell you just from the jump, onions take a long time to grow, a very, very long time to grow. The onion that I'm about to show you, I started last year about this time, and I just harvested maybe a month ago. Okay, so they take a while to grow, but this right here, if you can see it, these are onions. And so once that onion was dried and cured, all I did was cut off the bottom of the onion and put it into water. And now you have roots. And some of the roots are not wanting to go back in there because why not? Okay, there we go. So there you go. You just start some new onions here. And then what you're gonna do once they get about this long, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take them, dig up a little hole, drop them in a hole where the onion body or that little bulbous part here is sticking up right above the soil. And I'll sit that in there, cover up the roots with some soil, and just take care of it like I would take care of everything, water, all that kind of great stuff. And in about a year, you'll have some onions. Okay, and then the last thing I want to show you, this is really based around community, and this is something I am working on, literature and things like that for helping people understand how powerful it is to grow your own food. And this is something I think children really is good for children to know very, very young, which is that it doesn't take a lot to get a lot. We know that a lot of these children that we are servicing are underprivileged, and sometimes that food disparity where they're not getting the foods they need is because they can't afford it. But one thing that nature has shown me over my last 14 years is that if you can do it once, it will reward you in plenty. All right. So this year I actually planted about 40 icicle radish. I can't remember how many we ate, but we've eaten probably about 20, 30 of them. And I've had about between 5 to 10 of them actually, I left them in the ground to go to seed. So they'll grow flower, get pollinated, and then they'll have bulbs that will grow like this, okay? And these are dried. They have been harvested for about, I want to say about 3 days now. And they're dried. You can probably hear them as I shake them, okay? So from those 5 to 10, this little bag at the bottom here, the seeds are very tiny, so you may not be able to see them. Let me see if I can pull one out and hold it to the camera. But they're very, very tiny. If you can see that, little itty bitty seeds, okay? So in this bag, I think I have maybe right around between 100 and 200 seeds in the bottom of here. That is from maybe a fifth of these that I've already shelled. I have a whole big bushel over here that I still need to shell from a very small number of radish. So once you do it once, if you let those things go to seed, you can then take all those seeds, and all those seeds can be packaged up and given to your children. Say, these are yours. These are not only what you grew and you ate, but now you can do it again. And the beautiful thing about this, just as a quick tip if you want to do radishes, but radishes, when they dry like this, they're already ready to be planted again. So when I give these out, the one thing I do as a practice is I do a tithe to people around me in my community. So I'm going to take 10% of these and I'm actually going to give them to people so they can take them and they can start planting them themselves. And as soon as they get them, they're ready to plant. So you can drop them in. I would wait till it gets a little bit closer to fall so it can cool down a little bit. Like if you're in Texas, they'll grow. Then you have radishes. Okay, so you have an abundance in front of you, and all you have to do is start with one seed. Okay, and that's a good thing to show to the kids. You have your Mediterranean garden here. The gardens that we're going to show you now are all based around like things that you like to eat. If you like a Mediterranean salad or whatever the case, all it is thinking, what is it that I like to eat? Can I grow that together? So your Mediterranean garden, you have eggplants, you have peppers, garlic, onions. All of those things can be grown together in a very small area. You can do like a 3x3, 3 foot by 3 foot, and they'll all fit in that area. Okay. And then you can just pick them at harvest time and put them together and make you a little Mediterranean salad, right? Go ahead and go to the next one.
Also, Nancy is saying she pushed the button at the bottom and it split screen for all, him, me, and the slide.
Awesome. All right, salad garden. I think that's pretty straightforward. Lettuce. Grow your lettuce, grow your tomatoes, grow your radishes, things of that nature. If you grow them, again, closer to the fall, you'll have a little bit more with growing the food. Timing is always important, especially with plants like salad. Plants like lettuce to make a salad. It's a little bit more like closer to like cooler weather that you want to grow those things, collard greens, things of that nature. You can do them, but you're gonna have to get into like some more in-depth like greenhouse. We're not gonna go into all that, okay? Now, I will say this. If you do decide to grow lettuce at the beginning of the year, let's say you put them in the ground the end of spring, your plants are going to bolt, and that is okay. That is a great opportunity to increase your seedage, okay? So your lettuce, you put it in the ground, it gets too hot. Instead of them growing up like how you see the romaine in the store where there's a bunch of big leaves all together, they'll stop producing leaves. They'll produce a long stalk with flowers, and then they'll produce something like this, where there'll be a bunch of little pods with a bunch of seeds on them. You let them dry, you take the seeds, and then in the fall, now you have a bunch of lettuce seeds that you can grow, okay? So then you have a bigger salad than you would have had with your one lettuce plant, all right? Go ahead and go to the next one.
You mean your favorite one?
Yeah, my favorite one, the spaghetti bowl. So there's a lot of, everybody's seasons their spaghetti differently, right? But me specifically, what I do is I actually have in my garden, I have an area that I call the spaghetti bowl. That area has parsley, it has thyme, it has purple and Genovese basil, and it also has Thai basil in that one area. Okay, right next to it, I have what they call barbecue rosemary, and they're all in that one area. It was so successful that I actually had to cut about 50% of the parsley plant back because it was actually starting to kill the thyme because it was just leaning over it, right? So all of the care that you would have to do to one fits for all of those, okay? And you can pour them in, and once they grow, you can then take them and put them in your spaghetti. I just ate lasagna before I got on this call, and it was with the herbs, and it's just amazing. It's so, you can, it's almost like when you bite into it, you can smell it. You can smell the basil as you bite into it. You can smell the thyme as you bite into it, and that's very awesome when it comes to your children and having them eat from the garden from something that was cooked in the home, something that a caterer cooked using your garden, right? They're like, oh, this is totally different from the store. This is so aromatic. It's so good. It lightens up all your senses. It's great. All righty, let's go ahead and move forward.
And one thing I want to say is all of the gardens you just saw, we have handouts and you can download them now in handouts. Otherwise, at the end, I'm going to tell you where you guys can get them. All of that information, all about the seeds, how to plant them, tips are all going to be on those handouts, okay?
Awesome, awesome. All right, maintaining your garden. Let's go ahead and look at how we want to do this. So we have 3 categories here: watering, weeding, and harvesting routines, managing pests. I said that very strongly because we'll talk about that in a second, using organic methods, and then preparing the garden for changing seasons. So watering, weeding, and harvesting. Now, this is something that I really like to push if it's allowed in your state, if it's allowed in your zoning for your homes or your centers, which is rain catching. I do that here at my house on my downspout. It goes into 55-gallon food grade barrels. They're blue barrels that have been set up for the rain to go down into them. And I have 9 of them. No, 10 of them. So like about 550 gallons of rainwater I collect at any given time. And that's the only thing that I water my plants with, because of course we know when it rains, your plants go crazy. So might as well capture it for myself and only water them with that, right? And it's really easy. That may be something we talk about in the future. We'll see. But it's a very, very easy process because it's a downspout. If you have a downspout, you're just connecting it to it and then just letting the water fill up in all of those barrels. And then they also have 300-gallon food grade totes. And this was something I found out from one of my old neighbors. And it's the big, if you've ever been driving down the road and you see the big white cube with liquid in it, and it's got like a metal cage around it. Those are totes, and they have food grade versions where they do like oils and stuff. You can get one of those, same thing, put it in your downspout. That's 300 gallons. The last time I priced them, they were like $50 or something like that. So
Roger,
for the totes.
why does it
Yeah.
have to be food grade?
It has to be food grade because some of the totes that they use, they actually ship petroleum, like the gas for your car and things, and you don't want that in your water when you're feeding your plants because it will kill the plants and all the microorganisms inside.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So also, just a little side note, sometimes you can get a jackpot like we got with one of our food grade barrels where they actually were, it was for a restaurant, and they had peppermint oil. So we end up with a batch of peppermint oil that hadn't been used at the bottom that we bottled up and stuff, and we used as like insecticide, which is a perfect segue into managing pests and using organic methods. So there's a few that you can use. Number one is peppermint, especially like a peppermint essential oil. Bugs hate it. We actually did an experiment which there was a spider harmed, just to give you a heads up. But basically we took a cup and we put 1 drop of essential oil, and then we put the cup upside down on the spider, and in 3 seconds it suffocated. Because with peppermint, it's so strong, it like pulls that stuff out of the air, and they can't stand it. It's too viscous, as they would say. And so peppermint is always good. If you don't want to spend money on peppermint oil, then go and get peppermint seeds or buy peppermint. I should have given you a picture, Charlissa, of the peppermint, but I started peppermint 3 years ago with like 1 peppermint plant. It was like this big. Now my peppermint, I just harvested about 2 of those big metal bowls. I just harvested 2 of them. I can go out there right now and lay in my peppermint and it will cover my entire body because they're like super invasive. They'll just go everywhere.
When I convince you to come back and do more of these, we can talk about peppermint.
Right. So you can grow your peppermint around the plants that you don't want affected by bugs, or you want to deter pests from. That's the same with basil. Basil will deter some of the pests, especially like on your cabbages and things like that. It will deter. Onions are really good. You can actually grow, if you're growing a fruit like a watermelon, put the watermelon plant and you grow a few onions on the side, and then the pests that would normally come and attack your watermelon because they can smell it, they can't smell it because you have onions in the way, and they just think the onions are there. Another trick you can use is if you have onions and you've been using use them for whatever dish, take those scraps of the onions, put them in a bag, put some water in a bag, let it soak for about 2 to 3 hours. Then strain out the lettuce chunks and put it in a spray bottle and just go out and spray your plants. Because again, the bugs can't smell your fruit because now you cover it with the smell of onions. So they just stay away because they don't know it's there, right? So there's different methods. One of the biggest ones that, before we move on, is orange oil. I will say you need to be very careful because it is very, very powerful. But orange oil in the right quantities, you can have a gallon jug of water and put about an ounce or 2 ounces of orange oil, and you can get them at your local nursery. Put an ounce or 2 ounces of orange oil in your water. The orange oil is so potent that when you spray a bug, because their skeleton is on the outside, it actually melts their exoskeleton. So it not only gets rid of the bug, but any eggs that they've laid. If you have mounds of ants, you can take some of that, pour it in the mound. You won't get them migrating to another area because it will kill the queen, the eggs, everything. Everything will be gone, okay? And it's orange oil. So you're not putting a poison in the ground or a poison on your plant. You're just getting rid of everything with something natural so you can still feel safe eating the foods that you're growing, okay? And then last thing, preparing the garden for changing seasons. So one of the things that I'm actually doing as a new initiative at my home is in the changing seasons, instead of just going right into like doing a fall garden, I'm actually doing a full till. A lot of people do like a back to Eden method and they don't till it, which is actually great. But in my area, weeds are like, they don't play. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do a full till. Once everything is dyed, I'm pulling up all the raised beds. I'm doing a full till of the ground. I'm getting a tarp and I'm putting holes in it, and I'm going to start planting in those. And one of the things I came across in Florida just this year during a conference, some of you may have been at that conference. The hotel that we stayed at actually had its own garden, and what they did is they did their own compost. I do my own compost as well with the scraps from the table. However, they did theirs in like a food in a crate instead of food grade barrels. They did it in a crate and they dropped those foods in there. So instead of throwing out that lettuce, the tomatoes, anything that's not meat or plastic, instead of throwing that out, what they did is they would just throw it in a compost with a little bit of brown, some dead grass. The worms come up, they eat it and turn it into soil. If you take that soil and you grow your plants in the soil, I am telling you from experience, your mind will be blown at how big your plants will get because they have all the nutrients that they need, all the nitrogen, the potassium, the calcium. They will have the water structure. All of those things will be in that soil to help that plant grow in the best way. All right, let's go ahead and move forward.
I can't let you move forward. We've got bunny and squirrel problems. Bunny and squirrel problems abound. How do we?
Okay. All right, so this is a fun little trick. I haven't had to use it in like 8 years or so because there's not a lot of bunnies and squirrels where I'm, or there's a lot of squirrels. There's not a lot of bunnies. So two things that you can do. Number one, if short on budget, you can get plastic forks. You can take the fork prong side up and stick it in the soil all around your garden. So when your bunny tries to hop in, ow, your bunny doesn't want to eat because your bunny is getting hurt every time he's trying to get to your vegetables and your fruit, right? So that's one way that I've seen is very, very effective. Another way that's super effective is chicken wire. I actually have in one of my raised beds where bugs that I'm not very happy about destroyed my zucchini plants this year. So upset about it. Yeah, it's so much, we had so much rain this year, I wasn't able, every time I would go out to do the onion, it would just get washed away. So they knew it was there this year. So, but in that area, in that box or that raised bed I have, it's a 3-layered raised bed that I built. I have zucchini, I have the radishes that you saw, I have the cantaloupe, I also have blueberries at the top. I have done strawberries in that bed as well. And all I did was just put up 4 2x4s on the side and put chicken wire around the whole thing. And then I even made a lid to put chicken wire on the top as well. And they can't get to it because it's chicken wired everywhere. The only way they would be able to get to it if it was like a mole, they might dig under. But I do not know how to deal with moles. I've never had to deal with moles. I'm pretty sure there's some thing to do for moles, but bunnies and squirrels specifically, if they can't get into it, they're not really well, rabbits are not really persistent. Squirrels are, and that's where the lid came in because they'll try to figure out a way to still get in. If that lid's on there, they'll just stay away. They won't even try.
Awesome, thanks. Okay, now I'll let you move forward. We have, by the way, we have so many coming in, guys. I am gonna have to save them for a Q&A.
Yeah, yeah. All right, tips for involving children in garden maintenance. This is really, really, really easy. And this is the one I'm going to tell you because I know it's like won't hurt the children or anything like that. And it's like an issue that you all are going to have across the board with your garden. Aphids. Aphids are the cow of the ant kingdom. Okay, ants will they will get aphids, they will breed aphids, they will take the aphids and put them on your plant. The aphids will suck the sugars out of it, and when the aphids poop, they poop honeydew or sugar dew. It's just water with sugar in it. And then the ants take that, they milk the aphids, and they take it back, and that's how they feed each other. When your plant is high in nitrogen, you will see more aphids, okay? Aphids are super easy to get rid of. They won't do anything to you. Matter of fact, when they're on the plant, their stylet, their mouth goes into the plant and locks them into the plant, and that's just where they stay. So if you got one of your little ones, get not a heavy blast, but a strong blast of water, you can just spray it on the plants. Or you can get your little one some gloves and say, hey, look, this is what's happening. They're trying to eat the food because your food is healthy. You want to maintain it. So what you want to do is get your glove, grab the leaf, and just rub your thumb on it. And because their mouth is stuck in it, their bodies pop off, and now you don't have aphids anymore. Okay, so that's usually a one that I usually give to the kids because it's something where it's not like you're dealing with like a black widow, something that can hurt them, right? It's just aphids, it's just cows. So you can just get rid of the green cows all over the plants, okay? Assigning age appropriate tasks. This is very important because again, you do have those who are just learning to walk and will try to do that in fall, and there goes your plant. You also have bigger children who are more capable of doing tasks that you don't have to actually monitor, like the aphid method, where you can say, hey, you're on aphid duty today. And what this does is it teaches children to be aware of what's happening around them, okay? It teaches them to be very, what is the word I want to use? It teaches them to be self-sufficient, and it also teaches them responsibility in taking care of their plants, taking care of the things that are around them. You know that you're going to have others that want to eat your food, but you want to eat that food. So what do you do to maintain it and make longevity? So always think about the age of the child, what they can do on their own, what they need to be assisted with, and it'll make it easier, whether it's watering the plant, getting the aphids off, putting more fertilizer on the plants when you need to put more fertilizer, harvesting, all of the things that you're just going to do anyway. You just look at the age of the child and say, oh, they can pull up this this carrot, but they can't pull up the zucchini because it has spikes on it, you know, things like that. And then educational activities, going back to our seeds, going back to how many seeds come from one plant. One of the exercises, again, that I like to do, that I'm working on in some literature that I'm writing, is how many seeds come from one seed. I do this a lot with watermelons. When I grow my watermelons, one watermelon seed, 3 watermelons come out of it. Let's count how many seeds we have. When you see the picture of the sunflower, one mammoth sunflower, one seed. I think the last one that I had 562 seeds or something like that out of one sunflower, okay? So these are educational things where people are children, these little people are learning the abundance of nature, all right? All right, let's go ahead and move forward here.
Talk about the abundance of nature.
And so here are a few examples here of some things that I grew. On the left-hand side, those are my mammoth sunflowers. The big, pretty one there. That year, that one was like 9 or 9.5 feet tall, something like that. And I had, as you can see, it's a bunch of them there. I think that year I did like 7 or 8 or something like that. Next to it is zucchini. I ended up having a lot of zucchinis. and I just put it next to my leg so you can see the size and the girth of that zucchini. That was one of my smaller zucchinis. Okay. Fun fact. I know.
Oh,
Fun fact that you see those little scratch marks that are on the zucchini. That is an indication of how many times bees pollinated that flower. So the more scratches you see, like when you go to the store or you get watermelons or zucchinis, because they're in that same family, how many scratches you see and how yellow that bottom is tells you how many times that plant was pollinated to make that specific fruit. Okay. And then on the right hand side, that's me holding one of the sunflower heads that I cut off, and you can see all of the sunflowers that are all packed really tightly into that sunflower. These are all examples of planting one seed and getting an abundance out of that seed. Now, just imagine being someone who is in a food desert, and it's like, man, I don't have a lot of food. You take 1 year, you plant that seed. If I planted every single seed from that sunflower, I would have no room to walk around in my garden, right? So there's an abundance. This is like, I have too many seeds. Now let me start dispersing. Let me give those to people so that other people can experience the abundance, right?
I plan on getting some seeds from Broderick.
Definitely, definitely. All right. All right. So I think we've discussed a lot of the benefits for children at this point. Educational opportunities, again, this allows them to see the abundance of nature, see how much comes from the little. It also teaches them that when you don't have to overexert yourself. When you put in, a lot can come out of what you put in as long as you take care of what you put in, okay? Physical activity and motor skills for the little ones, dropping the seed in the hole. That helps with that hand-eye coordination, right? Making sure you're staking plants, things like that, carrying the bags of soil and things like that, physical activity, and just getting your vitamin D and vitamin B12 from just being in the sun, just allowing your version of photosynthesis through your skin to absorb those vitamins that come from that big ball of nuclear fusion in the sky. And then your emotional and physiological benefits. There's actually a term called nature. Oh, I can't remember. It's called nature deprivation syndrome, something like that, where people will feel like unhappy, depressed, and then they'll go on a hike and they'll be like, oh my God, I feel so good because it's so green, because you just put yourself around life and being able to see that life and being able to be in an area where all these things are outputting oxygen. You may be in a closed cubicle in your house like I am right now. You get oxygen, but it's not like being reproduced like that. It's coming out your AC, right? But when you're in nature, you're getting that fresh oxygen and it just excites the nervous system. It makes you feel better. It basically kind of cleans that aura, right? It makes you feel better. And so it's really good to put yourself in those positions so that you can feel better as well as your children.
Amazing. Amazing. Listen, Christine said grounding, I believe is what a lot of people call that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I do that as well. No shoes. Sometimes I'll just stand out in the dirt and let those negative ions, fill the body, cleanse the system, things of that nature. So grounding is a really, really great thing. I do it with my children as well, because the babies need grounding.
Listen, I will never forget going out to my mother-in-law's and seeing my 10-year-old nephew, James, just standing in the middle of the backyard doing nothing. And I walked out and I said, buddy, you good? And he just said, I'm just chilling. And I was like, that sounds great. You keep doing that.
That sounds like lowering blood pressure and stress. It sounds like lowering the heart rate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've got Edna who says that she loves doing that with her children. They play in the rain, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, we have time for questions.
That's
But
amazing.
I do want to do one thing before we get to that, because I have a super exciting announcement, you guys. Some of you may already know this, some of you may not know this, but Childcare officially launched its Facebook community page. Okay. This is the Facebook community page. I am so excited about it. I'm going to put up a QR code so that you guys can actually go there, because a lot of you have asked, where can I go to ask questions? Where can I get handouts? How can I interact with people? You can do it all through our Facebook. Okay, just give me 1 second, and I am actually going to put that QR code up so that you guys can scan it. Okay. You guys will see me in there a lot. I'm actually the one that runs that Facebook page. So if you see some posts, it's probably me. It's going to appear like magic. Okay.
Awesome.
If you guys scan that with your phone, it'll take you directly to that Facebook page. And then hopefully tomorrow morning or right after this, I'll wake up with a huge list of people who want to join. Patty says she doesn't know how to scan it. That's okay, Patty. On your phone, open up your camera setting. You don't have to take a picture. Hover the camera in front of it, and a little link will show up that you can click, and it'll take you directly there.
And for if you have iPhones, the link shows at the bottom. Android or others show on the left-hand side.
Thank you. And I will also send you guys out with the handouts. I'll send you out the link for the Facebook page as well. You can also just search Kidcare Childcare Community. Okay. Exactly, Shelly, or just type the name in the search bar. Okay, so we did have a couple of questions that I want to get to. A few of them were really about like how to harvest things. So like, how do you harvest celery the correct way? Or how do you harvest like lettuces or root vegetables? Is there a special way that they should be doing it?
So each plant has its own way of harvesting. It just depends on the plant. So for instance, let's take a lettuce and then let's take a basil, both leafy greens, right? So your lettuce, you're gonna grow your lettuce and it's gonna get to a certain size, and then you're just gonna cut it off like you see at the store, cut it off at the bottom, and then you have your lettuce, right? You'll know because you'll see how big it is. Sometimes you can go and research the average time it takes to get to harvest, and then you want to cut around that time. Another tip that I can give you is that if you see it getting ready to start flowering, you either need to cut the flower because it will make the lettuce bitter, or you just need to go ahead and harvest the lettuce there so that it doesn't become bitter. Because whenever you see the flower, it means the plant is getting ready to stop putting nutrients towards the leaves and start putting it towards reproduction, okay? Now with basil is very interesting because you can harvest basil all day long. I harvest my basil probably once or twice every week or every other week, just depending on rain and things of that nature. But with basil, how you harvest this is you'll have a shoot that pops up, you'll have a set of leaves, you'll have a second set of leaves, you have a third set of leaves. Right above the second set of leaves, about a quarter of an inch cut at an angle, now you have your basil. And then what will happen is out of that area where it's cut, it will send the signal to the roots that, hey, I can't send anything else up here to flower. I need to send out 2 shoots from the area. Now you have 2 more shoots, and then you'll get a set of leaves, a set of leaves, a set of leaves, cut both there. And then you'll do it again. And then a month later, 2 months later, you'll have a big bush and you'll just be cutting basil and you'll have a plethora of basil from that harvest, okay? And then once you're done harvesting, again, once you start seeing those little flowers pop at the top, you can just let it go. And then it'll grow flowers. And basil is one of those plants that will give you 90 billion seeds per plant. So that's a great way to harvest that plant. But like I said, they're all different. You may grow a watermelon or a cantaloupe. And with a cantaloupe, it'll get to a point where you're like, I don't know how to tell, or I don't know how to tell with this watermelon. You'll start seeing the stem right at the top where it's touching the plant start turning brown. If you pick up the fruit and it just pops off, it was ready, right? So
that makes sense, actually.
That makes sense.
Broderick, I don't actually know that I could learn this much about gardening and like actually learn this much about gardening. Um, a couple of the really common ones that I've got that I want to make sure to see and to
Mhm.
address is it okay to like plant the same type of plant year over year over year in the same spot?
That is, I would say it's a no-no. The reason I would say that is because if you end up with some type of soil-borne pests or soil-borne disease that you did not realize was there, and you plant the same seed in the area, you invite it into the new plant. Or sometimes what pests will do is they will go and lay eggs because they're like, oh, this plant grows here. And then if you grow it there again, then they just attack it because they knew it was coming, right? So you want to shift the garden around. If you are planting in soil, if you're not doing like a raised bed that's open, if you're not doing like a container, if you're doing actually in the ground, you also, if you're not amending your soil, like if you're not doing like compost and things like that, you want to make sure that there's a space that is not used and there's a space that is used. And once you're finished with the space that you use after like year 3, of using that same space, you want to you don't want to plant in that area the next year. You want to take all of those seeds, move it to the place that was not used, and allow that soil to heal and get its nutrients back by worms and things that nature will start eating in that area where you were growing your food before.
Yeah, we had I hope I'm saying her name correctly. Alaria pointed out something
Mm-hmm.
so smart. Because I have this problem. I'll buy strawberries, especially in Florida. We get strawberries all the time. I'll
Mm-hmm.
buy strawberries and they go bad like instantaneously. And she
Mm-hmm.
said if they're not good enough to eat, you can just regrow them with the seeds.
Exactly.
I'd never
Exactly.
thought of
You can literally like just cut like a slice on the strawberry and then just like sit it on some soil and then just cover it with light soil and then just make sure you water it and the seed, and they're not even seeds. I forgot what they're called. But the little dots you see on the strawberry are not actually seeds. They are I can't remember the word for it. It's a scientific word, but it's like for a cluster of those things. So the actual full strawberry is considered the seed. Those are like the seedlets or something like that that grow on it that will actually grow the next plants. Kind of like the same things with like a blueberry where it has all the little bulbs all over it. That's kind of like what a strawberry is. That same thing. So you can take those and you can just drop them in the ground and grow more strawberries right over it. That's a good point too, because with strawberries, there are actually a couple variety of strawberries. You have those strawberries that grow the really big strawberries, but once you harvest them, it's done. And then you have another variety that just continues to grow. They're little strawberries, but it just grows all season. As long as nothing attacks it, no diseases, you're just going to continue to get strawberries throughout the year, and they will vine and go a little bit further. So just depends. But yes, you can take those rotten strawberries and it's not rotten to the seeds. It's food for them.